This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where you bring us your sources, articles, research, maybe just some notes you've gathered, and we dive in.
We pull out the key insights, the really essential stuff, maybe find a few things you didn't expect, all tailored for you.
And today, we're tackling a really interesting idea that jumped out from the material you shared with us. This concept of data is Nepal's new oil.
Yeah, it's a powerful metaphor. We've got this collection of information here looking at Nepal's economy, where it's strong, where it faces challenges, and crucially, how data and business analytics are starting to fit into that picture.
It really does feel like Nepal's at a bit of a crossroads based on these sources.
It does.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack that data as new oil metaphor specifically for Nepal. We want to understand the potential, look at the reality on the ground.
See what's actually working, what the roadblocks are.
Exactly, and highlight the practical steps, the future possibilities that the sources point towards. We'll guide you through the most important nuggets we found in the material you gave us.
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with the metaphor itself. Why new oil? What makes data comparable to oil, especially for Nepal right now?
Good place to start. So this new oil idea, basically, it positions data as this incredibly valuable resource driving the modern digital economy, much like oil fueled the industrial age.
Right, you had to find it, extract it, which means collecting it,
Refine it, process, and analyze it.
and then use it wisely to create value. But there's a huge difference, isn't there?
A massive difference. Unlike oil, data isn't finite, it's renewable. Actually, the more you use it, often the more valuable insights you can generate. It sort of feeds itself.
And the material really connects this directly to Nepal's specific economic context. It points out the heavy reliance on agriculture, something like 65% of the population involved, contributing, 24% to 31% of GDP?
Yeah, a huge chunk, but often with low productivity, as the sources note.
And then there's remittances, hugely important, making up 25% of GDP. Provides stability, sure, but there's that risk the sources mention, the Dutch disease problem.
Right, where relying too heavily on that external income might actually stifle the growth of other domestic industries. It's like you need diversification.
Exactly. And you look at the growth forecasts mentioned for next year, around 4 to 4.5% from the World Bank, ADB, IMF. There's potential, but it also highlights the need for new economic drivers.
It really does. And these sources don't shy away from the structural issues either. Low labor productivity, weak logistics, infrastructure gaps, and that big one, the brain drain.
These are fundamental brakes on growth.
Which is where the sources pivot to data and business intelligence, or BI.
Right. BI is essentially about taking all that raw data, customer info, sales figures, operational metrics, market trends, cleaning it up, analyzing it.
And turning it into insights you can actually use to make better decisions. Improve efficiency, understand customers better, spot growth opportunities. That's the promise.
So the argument presented is that Nepal needs to optimize its traditional sectors, like agriculture and tourism, while also building new ones. And data is positioned as the key tool for doing that. It's a potential fuel for a different kind of growth.
Which brings us to a really fascinating, maybe tricky part highlighted in the material, the cultural shift needed.
Ah, yes, this is critical. The sources talk quite a bit about how traditional decision-making in Nepal often leans on cultural factors.
Things like hierarchy, relying on afnamanchi, your own people, insiders.
Personal connections, kripabad or favoritism, nadabad or nepotism. The sources aren't saying relationships don't matter, but that sometimes decisions get based more on who you know than on objective data.
Yeah, and that raises a big question. How easy is it to shift towards data when that's the established way? The material suggests that over-reliance on intuition or connections without data leads to less than optimal results and hinders meritocracy.
And in today's world, purely intuitive decisions, well, they're often not enough, are they? The sources mention behavioral biases creeping in if you don't have data to check your gut feelings.
Plus, customers are just so much more informed now. They expect more. Businesses have to use data to understand them properly.
It's a major shift, moving from this feels right or this is how we've always done it to let's see what the data says. But importantly, the sources do show it's happening. There are examples of Nepalese companies succeeding with data.
Okay, let's look at those. Pateni, the big supermarket chain. The sources mention customer surveys showing they understand customer needs, high scores for quality management, staff responsiveness.
So how do they do that? The implication in the material is strong. They're likely using data, loyalty programs, analyzing shopping baskets, maybe store traffic patterns.
To personalize things, manage stock, Maybe even design store layouts? It suggests they're not just guessing.
Definitely not. And Duraz, the e-commerce giant, is another prime example. They actively use customer reviews as data.
Right. And all that browsing history, search terms, purchase data, it fuels their recommendations, their targeted ads, their logistics, especially for massive campaigns like 11.11. Data is core to their business.
Geokrishi is another one mentioned. And it's particularly interesting because it's in agriculture, that huge traditional sector.
Yeah, providing weather and market data directly to farmers. The source says over 51,500 farmers are using it, 97% reporting better localized weather info. That's data having a direct impact on yields, on income.
It really shows data isn't just for tech companies. It can make a difference anywhere.
The sources also give nods to telecoms using subscriber data, banks analyzing transactions, and even Food Mandu, the delivery service. Complaints about late delivery, that's data too, right? Highlighting operational weaknesses.
Exactly. Even if the strategic use varies, data points are emerging everywhere, showing where improvements are needed.
So when you look at these examples, what really jumps out for me, it's that they're not just collecting data, they're using it to actively change something, customer experience, operations, providing vital info.
Absolutely. They're connecting data to action. They've moved into actual business intelligence. And doing that relies on the digital infrastructure and the tools available in Nepal.
Okay, so what's the picture there according to the sources?
Yeah.
Early 2025 stats show internet penetration around, what, 55, 56%?
Yeah, 55.8%.
Yeah.
And mobile connections are super high, 132% of the population, though obviously people have multiple SIMs. But mobile broadband is at 80.5%.
And fixed internet speeds are climbing, over 70 Mbps average now. So connectivity is definitely growing, even if it's still uneven.
Definitely uneven, especially outside the cities, but growing. And social media, huge.
48% penetration. Facebook is dominant. Instagram, TikTok, very popular. That generates a massive amount of data on what people are thinking, buying, doing.
Invaluable data, really. And e-commerce is booming, too. Nearly $1 billion projected this year, strong growth forecasts. Platforms like Doraz, Food Mandu, they're generating tons of transaction data.
Even smaller businesses going online are adding to the pool.
So the raw material, the data is increasingly there. The digital foundation is being built. What about the tools to make sense of it all?
The sources suggest basic BI tools are becoming more accessible. They mention CRM systems, customer relationship management.
Crucial in a relationship-focused culture like Nepal's.
Right. And there are local partners for international systems like Zoho CRM, maybe Salesforce via regional partners, plus local options emerging too. Table 1 in the source material lists some.
And for retail, restaurants' point of sale, POS systems. Local and international options exist, capturing sales and inventory data. Table 2 lists some of those, along with hardware costs.
And for the actual analysis and visualization, cloud tools like Power BI, Tableau, Google Data Studio are generally accessible. Plus, many CRMs and POS systems have built-in reporting.
And don't forget the standard web and social media analytics, Google Analytics, Facebook Insights, those are readily available to almost anyone online.
So the takeaway seems to be, the basic tech is increasingly available. Connectivity is improving, data is being generated, and accessible tools, especially cloud-based ones, are lowering the entry barrier.
Particularly for SMEs wanting to analyze customer or social media data. Though the sources do hint at potential complexity with integrations and a fragmented IT market.
Okay, so we have data, we have tools, we have success stories, but clearly it's not smooth sailing for everyone. What are the main obstacles the sources point to?
This is where it gets really down to earth. The human and infrastructure factors loom large. Number one seems to be the lack of digital skills and awareness.
Low digital literacy overall, particularly outside urban areas. And many SME managers, the sources say, just don't see the benefits yet or know where to start. World Bank, ADB reports highlight this.
Even if a farmer has an agri-tech app, do they have the broader digital skills to really leverage it fully? Maybe not always.
Then there's infrastructure. We mentioned uneven connectivity, but also unreliable power, poor logistics.
Yeah.
These make consistent data collection and using cloud tools really challenging in practice.
Definitely. And cost is a big one for SMEs. Implementing software, training staff, maybe upgrading hardware. It's expensive, and funding isn't always easy to come by.
And we circle back to culture. That resistance to change, comfort with intuition or afnomanchi, plus genuine concerns about data security and privacy, especially with cloud tools. A lack of trust.
It's a potent mix. Lack of skills, patchy infrastructure, cost barriers, and cultural resistance or skepticism.
And the sources make a really strong argument that right now, these human and infrastructural hurdles are actually bigger than the technology hurdles. The tech exists.
But the capacity to use it effectively, the reliable foundation for it, and the willingness to fully embrace it,
Yeah.
those are the main bottlenecks.
And this ties directly back to that brain drain issue we mentioned earlier. The sources connect these dots quite powerfully. Well, if there's a lack of meritocracy, if decisions aren't consistently data-driven, and if skilled young people trained in data analysis don't see challenging, well-paid opportunities at home.
They leave. They go where those skills are valued and rewarded.
Exactly. And that creates this vicious cycle. Businesses struggle to adopt BI because the talent leaves, and the talent leaves partly because businesses aren't creating those data-driven environments.
So the brain drain isn't just a loss of talent. It actively undermines the shift towards a data-driven economy.
It helps explain why the big successes are often larger firms like Papateni or Duraz, or externally supported ones like Geokrishi. They have the resources to overcome these barriers. The average SME has a much tougher time.
Okay, so acknowledging all that complexity, what practical steps do the sources suggest for business leaders who do want to move forward? How do they start?
It really has to start with leadership, creating a data-driven culture. That means commitment from the top leaders asking data-based questions, showing they value it. It's a mindset shift.
Not just buying software.
Precisely. And investing in training. For everyone, not just specialists. Basic digital literacy, understanding how data helps their specific job. The sources even mention things like reverse mentoring.
Where younger staff help train older colleagues on tech.
Yeah. And overcoming resistance takes patience, clear communication about what's in it for them, celebrating small wins, and being culturally sensitive.
The idea of open book management is also mentioned. Sharing key financial or operational data internally.
Right, making it transparent so people see the connection between their work and the numbers and understand why data matters.
And for choosing tools, the advice is start simple.
Use what you have: Excel, Google Analytics, basic POS reports. Don't go for the massive, complex system right away. Figure out your actual needs first.
Choose tools that fit your size, budget, and expertise. Cloud options can definitely lower those initial costs.
Then, focus on the data itself. Define your key performance indicators, your KPIs. What metrics really matter for your business?
And data quality is key. Is it accurate, complete, timely, rubbish in, rubbish out?
Absolutely. Start with simple analysis summaries, customer segments. Use charts and graphs to make it understandable. The goal is moving from what happened to why it happened, and maybe even what might happen next.
And ethics and security. Non-negotiable. Keep client data confidential, be transparent about collection, protect against leaks, comply with Nepal's data protection laws.
The core message seems to be, technology is only part of it. Developing your people, their skills, their mindset, and fostering that data valuing culture is paramount.
Getting that management buy-in and investing in human capital, that seems like the real foundation for success.
And if businesses start doing this, even in small ways, it could create a positive feedback loop, right? More efficiency, maybe more growth, more demand for data skills.
Exactly. And maybe help chip away at some of those inefficiencies linked to purely subjective decision-making.
Looking further ahead then, what's the ultimate potential described in the sources if Nepal really does embrace this data as new oil idea?
The outlook is quite positive. They point towards AI and advanced analytics. Things like better demand forecasting, optimizing supply chains, hyper-personalization, AI chatbots for customer service.
Even in agriculture, AI could offer more sophisticated advice, like diagnosing plant diseases from photos, as mentioned with apps like Krishiguru.
But, and it's a big but, realizing that requires building local AI talent and the underlying infrastructure. It won't happen overnight.
Which brings us to the role of government and education. It seems critical.
Absolutely. Government initiatives like the Digital Nepal Framework, support for startups, investing in infrastructure, boosting digital literacy, these are foundational. Clear data policies, promoting open data, using BI within government itself for transparency, all important.
And education needs to step up, developing practical programs in data science, BI, AI. The sources mention Stanford College, Kathmandu University, working with industry. That collaboration is key.
There's also a suggestion that agritech could be a real catalyst, especially in rural areas, if data solutions work visibly well in agriculture.
It could act as a sort of Trojan horse, demonstrating the benefits and paving the way for wider adoption in other sectors.
Exactly. Build trust and familiarity with data through a core sector.
So if Nepal manages all this, the potential isn't just fixing the domestic economy. It's bigger than that.
Much bigger, according to the sources. It's about repositioning Nepal regionally, even globally,
Yeah.
becoming an exporter of digital services, maybe specialized solutions.
Like high-altitude agritech for other mountain regions, or data-driven sustainable tourism models.
Precisely. That kind of innovation leads to export diversification,
Yeah.
attracts investment, improves the trade balance, reduces that reliance on remittances. It's a path towards greater economic resilience and prosperity.
So wrapping up, the material you brought us makes a really strong case. Data is a massive opportunity for Nepal. Huge potential, largely untapped.
But it's definitely not simple. It's deeply tied to culture, education, infrastructure, governance. It's way more than just buying technology.
For business leaders listening, the takeaway seems to be, start now, even small. Train your people, build the culture, focus on using data to improve customer experience. That's huge in Nepal's word-of-mouth environment.
For the government, keep pushing on infrastructure, supportive regulations, digital literacy, and lead by example with data use in the public sector.
And for educators, focus on practical skills. Work closely with industry.
Data offers this incredible chance for Nepal to leapfrog economically. A once-in-a-generation opportunity, perhaps.
But, and here's that final thought for you. This oil won't drill for itself. Realizing the potential needs everyone pulling together. Business, government, education, society.
It requires deliberate, sustained effort and collaboration to build that future based on knowledge and innovation. It won't just happen.
Thank you for bringing these really insightful sources to our deep dive today.